the big wheels keep on turning. NH Unscripted keeps on burning. Yeah, we are glad to be back. NH Unscripted. I am your Ike and Tina Turner-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the very, very cavernous digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. You know the drill. Fire up the Motorola, get the kiddos around. We are coming to you from 1450 AM or 103.9 FM, Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful blessed souls in Manchester. Or, you know what? You could go out to nhtalkradio.com. That's our URL and, hang around out there. Oh, I need to thank my sponsor, Lakes Region Fence in Guilford. All right, folks. You know the pro drill. Get the lava lamp fired up, light up the incense, warm up the water bed, and grab your favorite squeeze and head on over to lrfence.com. That's lrfence.com. They have voluminous amounts of photos that you can check out for fence. Okay, maybe you didn't get it up there for Easter, but you got a tax return coming, don't you? Get rid of that World War II relic you're calling a fence and put down some money on a brand new one. There are incredible photos out at lrfence.com. lrfence.com. They do it all. Pools, property lines. I don't even know where you need a fence anymore. But, I don't know, call them. Go out to lrfence.com. They got a link for free estimates. Matt and his group will come out. They'll do all kinds of things. They'll work magic.
Good fences make good neighbors, right?
What? Who is in the house? Oh, my God.
I didn't mean to jump in early during your promo, but it just struck me. Where are fences? Wherever we have neighbors, man.
Good fences make good
and
neighbors.
And they make the best up there.
That is my new friend, Jim Rosenberg. Yeah, baby. Oh, we got things to talk about today. lrfence.com. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you sponsoring the show. Well, as everyone has now found out, my newest friend, attorney Jim Rosenberg, is in the house. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. I didn't mean to jump the gun. I couldn't help myself. I'm so happy to be here for a third time. The third time's a charm, always.
That happens to a lot of people. I get that a lot.
Or three strikes, you're out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out one way or the other.
How was your weekend?
It was great. I mean, it focused a lot on basketball for me this weekend.
What?
I know you were away, but we have March Madness is afoot.
Yeah.
So are the Cinderella stories, more now than ever, I think, given the construct of men's and women's basketball with NIL money and with the transfer portal between college kids and with the ability to do 1 year in college, then go straight to the pros. So many of the historic great programs are vulnerable to those smaller Division I schools that have had a nucleus of players together for 2, 3, 4 years, especially with extended eligibility coming out of the COVID era. And once again this year, there's been a dynamic, set of 64 teams, plenty of upsets, lots to do. But for my group in Concord, this weekend is always a bit of a reunion because not only do we have March Madness, and a dear friend of mine, Kirk McGonigal, always gathers with a close group of our Concord High friends and those near to them for this first kind of big Friday of March Madness in order to take the afternoon off, watch games, raise a glass, and have fun among old friends. But also in Concord this past weekend was Black Ice Pond Hockey's tournament.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Now, there's no ice.
I didn't know there was such a thing
out there at White Park in the history
hence it's black.
Right.
You can't see it.
Well, I mean,
doesn't exist.
Are you familiar with the Black Ice tournament?
I am not. Didn't know. Truthfully, I did not know it existed.
Really?
Yeah. Never heard of it.
I'm so glad I'm here to share.
I'm glad
this
I got out of bed.
So, in Concord's recent history, Chris Brown and the group at New Hampshire Distributors have done a magnificent job of organizing and administering a giant 3-on-3 pond hockey tournament.
Okay.
And in recent years past, we've been fortunate to have it outside at White's Park, where he and a group of devoted and loyal volunteers and sponsors have cleared the ice, set up small boards, makeshift boards for 3-on-3 hockey tournaments. There's no real physicality or checking the way there is in NHL hockey these days.
Or the drunk leagues that I play in.
Well, and there is some of that, I suspect. Now, with the onset of global warming or just bad luck with weather, depending on your perspective and how you might view these things, they've had in recent years gone inside. Last year at Everett Arena here in Concord, this year at Tri-Town Arena in Hooksett, which was a great venue for this tournament because they have 2 sheets of ice there. and they separate them into 3 small rinks, so you can get 6 games going.
This is outside?
It's
Inside?
inside
Okay,
now.
okay.
And at Tri-Town, there's also a pretty cool pavilion between the 2 sheets of ice where people can get a drink and they can sell merchandise for black ice and stuff like that. But recent generations of great local hockey players come back and create a team. My class at Concord High, 1992, won the crown that year, the Division I state championship in ice hockey, and that group gets together to create a team to put in this tournament. They are now in the over 50, or could be. They were in the open competitive group, but they could now qualify for the over 50 team, which
you say that like it's
my
painful.
Age. It is. My memories are fresh of these people, but the truth is much time has passed. They were back in town again, so this weekend also always has, Black Ice Weekend always has a bit of a reunion quality for those of us like me, fortunate enough to grow up in the greater Concord area.
Well, they're lucky to be able to get a venue, right, like Tri-State, because you don't know if it's gonna melt. I mean,
right. Well, and that's been
they
a problem,
could have been
frankly.
booked.
Yeah. There's other tournaments that have taken on popularity. There's one in Winnipesaukee, I understand. I haven't been to it, but I think it'd be a great place for it. I think both of these local tournaments have struggled to do what we've always done in the past year, play pond hockey reliably in the winter. And so they've had to move inside, or at least Black Ice has. Last year, Everett was great. This year, Tri-Town was great. The key to it, though, is Chris Brown, who runs New Hampshire Distributors, really is a great event planner, coordinator, and local diplomat. And he is able to coalesce a lot of local resources, including ice time, and effectively run and then work a tournament. And the number of volunteers that makes this thing go, to get the ice right, to sell merchandise.
I know nothing about it.
Yeah, I did some announcing down there Saturday morning for games, just announcing what teams are coming on next and stuff like that. Yeah.
Is it well attended?
It's very well attended and well sponsored. Shaheen and Gordon, my law firm where I work and have for years, is one of the year in and year out proud sponsors for this event. And that includes for Black Ice, but also earns us a Dasher board at Tri-Town in Everett Arena, where there's lots of great sponsors. But sponsoring youth sports in these venues is important to do.
Yeah.
It's all of our community responsibilities to make sure this stuff is available for youth to come through and play now. The expense of sport is magnificent. The importance of sport is also magnificent.
Correct.
And so we all view that as one of our responsibilities. But, yeah, it's been well attended. It was great, and I will say it was great to have it at Tri-Town, because it really was, with 2 sheets and an area to eat and for families and players to congregate and socialize, made it great. Parking was great. When it was outdoors, it brought a community carnival, winter carnival type atmosphere. And those families around White's Park, which is a beautiful gem of a park in the middle of Concord, New Hampshire, a historic park, it was a great place to have an event, because a lot of people who own houses nearby would get bonfires going and welcome guests, go to games,
event.
get the kids together. They had a food truck and a merchandise truck and a large tent for players to congregate and have some fun and blow off some steam.
Dang.
And the hockey is always good, too. It really has been a great local event, an opportunity to get outside in New Hampshire. You know, this time of year, we don't always see our neighbors.
Yeah.
A chance to connect in real life, in fresh air, in the middle of Concord is always a welcome chance. And it was a great event this year, as it has been in the past. And I hope it continues going. I mean, the hard part about something that takes so much energy to the point of exhaustion for the planners of the events and those that work it as volunteers is to keep it going. And it's really had legs in recent year. And like I said, more selfishly for me, it's been a chance to see some old friends who come back to play.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, really cool.
Yeah.
So you're on fire. You just dropped about 100 topics on me. Let me see where I want to go.
Well, we could talk about you, too. You went to New York.
I did go to New York.
I went to Hooksett.
You did? That's close.
Yeah, New York is much more glamorous. Why did you go there?
To escape New Hampshire. No, we had a friend. So Jim Spiegel's son, Zach. I don't know if you know Jim Spiegel.
Sounds really familiar, but I can't say that I do.
Good friend of mine as well in the theater community. He and Mike Mark, who recently passed away, had Sandcastle Productions. Anyway, Jim's son was in an off-Broadway play up there. And so...
What was the name of the play?
Burbank. It was a story about the unionization of the artists at Walt Disney and the battle that they had. A 3-person play. You wouldn't think that you could maybe accomplish that whole thing about unionizing. But yeah, so we went for the day. We just went for the day. We went to out to eat at a speakeasy up there. It was really
What
really
neighborhood
cool.
did you eat in?
God dang it!
Near the
Jim.
theater? I mean, you're
So-
near Midtown right there?
Yeah, but we. Oh man, okay, hang on.
We'll be back to it.
We gotta put a pin in it. I have gifts for him too. What is going on
I have
here?
some in turn.
My world is imploding.
We'll get it done.
You are listening to NH Unscripted. Coming out of the gate hot is Jim Rosenberg. Hot, baby, hot. I get so much. He touched on so many things. Woo! I am your happy to be out of bed host, Ray Dudley, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord, 101.9 FM in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL. My new friend, attorney Jim Rosenberg, is with me. We're chatting it up. We'll be right back. And somewhere over the rainbow is NH Unscripted. I am your Judy Garland-like host, Ray Dudley, clicking my heels together. We are coming to you from the Oz-like conditions of the WKXL studios deep in the heart of Concord. You're probably listening to us either on 1450 AM, 103.9 FM if you're in Concord, 101.9 FM in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. I'll give you a little bit more information about what's going on out there. However, Jim Rosenberg is in the house. Man, oh man, we have things to chat about.
Back at it.
Things to chat about.
Well, and we were talking about you for a minute, which was a nice change of pace from my first two visits. Can I return to ask you a couple more questions about your trip?
You can try.
To the Big Apple?
You can try.
Okay, let's just break it up and break it down for a second.
All right, I'm drinking my coffee while you do it.
I think that this is important for your listening audience, which I'm certain is an adventurous audience as you are.
Yeah.
In
okay.
your image.
Yes.
So you went to New York. How did you get there?
Oh, great question. So I have a son who lives down in Warwick, Rhode Island.
Sure.
So we drove down there, left New Hampshire during the crazy storm, saw like 12 accidents on the way down.
Yikes.
We drive down to Warwick, and then we pick him up. We drove over to New Haven, Connecticut, and then we took the train in.
And I've heard that over and over again as my friends who are familiar with Connecticut and the rail that goes from Connecticut to Midtown Manhattan as being a really effective and popular way to go.
I loved it.
I haven't done that myself, but I'd like to experiment
Well,
with
you're
that.
probably flying on your private copter.
Not at all. I mean, the problem with flying, I've flown before.
You're an attorney, right? Don't you have a
I've driven.
private?
I've flown.
Okay.
I've taken the train. I've taken the bus. I've done it all. And the challenge I find about travel from here to New York, so close yet so very far, is that you want
song
something
in there somewhere. Go ahead.
Maybe we could do that for next episode. So
chase away the kids
is the way to get into Midtown Manhattan without breaking the bank, and with some efficiency. And the train does that for you, right? You end up right across from Madison Square Garden, right at Penn Station Grand Central.
We pulled
Station.
in the Grand Central,
right? Which is an ideal place to end up, rather than if you fly and you end up at either JFK or LaGuardia. While the flights from Boston to New York are frequent and not expensive, the problem is you still have a 45-minute to hour Uber ride, which is both expensive and time-consuming to get from the airport outside of Midtown to the middle of Manhattan. And I think that's the struggle. And so that then means that train is a good way to go. The problem, if you're from New Hampshire, is that you've got to get to Boston first in order to take said train. Or, as you've done here, gone to a closer commuting stop with relatives in Connecticut. Great way to do it. The problem I find from Boston is the Acela, which is dignified and fast and comfortable, is also expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
is that the Amtrak one?
It is, I believe. Yeah. It can cost $300-$400 or more.
That's why we didn't go.
Especially if you're spontaneous about it, as I almost always tend to be. If you have months to plan and prepare and know when you're going, I think you could get a cheaper train ticket on one of the high-speed Acelas. But it's expensive, and you still have to either drive to and park in Boston or take one of our buses down to Boston.
Yeah.
Prior to the pandemic, Concord Trailways offered an amazing direct bus on a luxury bus from Concord to New York, making one stop in Connecticut at a truck stop to urinate and get a snack, and into Midtown you'd be. It would drop you off near the United Nations in Murray Hill, which is Midtown near the East River and not far from Grand Central Station or the Chrysler Building if you need some landmarks.
Yeah.
That was a great way to go because the bus itself was high quality. They had snacks in the back of it. It was clean. It was comfortable. You didn't do the driving. The ticket price, I think, was $1.25, give or take.
That's not bad.
Unfortunately, post-pandemic, Concord Trailways hasn't brought back that link. I understand they have from Portland, but not from Concord. And I would love to put a plug in for that because that was my wife and my preferred way to go. It was great. They do a great job at Concord Trailways. So that was a good way to go. But since then, we don't have what I would say is convenient plane flight because you still got to Uber in to Manhattan from LaGuardia or JFK. Expensive train service from Boston. You still got to get there. And that bus is no longer available. So my wife and I and friends and I, when I've gone, and I try to go once a quarter, man.
Yeah, you do?
New York is a fountain of energy and fun and food and culture and diversity. It's a magnificent city, I think. For the reasons you went, you saw an off-Broadway play that I bet knocked your socks off.
Yes. Oh, it was tremendous, actually. It was really tremendous. And we had a great meal. We were at a speakeasy. You go into this pawn shop, and it's a real pawn shop. And there's all this crazy stuff around, and you let them know that you're there for dinner. And they open up a section of the wall, and you walk in, and it's this gorgeous. I mean gorgeous. It had vibes of like the 30s. Speakeasy. It was beautiful. It was all tapas food. It was, oh my God, it was well worth it.
You're eating small plates?
Yes.
Did you get many of them in order to sample lots of different small
We
plates?
did. We ended up with like 5 or 6 different. Yeah.
It was. Did it make you cry? Was that good?
Oh, it was. It was that good.
Do you know? And again, I'm sorry if it just put you on the spot again. Do you know what neighborhood you were in when you had this meal?
Oh my God.
It's okay. You don't need to know.
I do not know. I do not. I know nothing about
roughly. Do you know where you were?
In New York?
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Were you in Manhattan? You were in Manhattan as opposed to Brooklyn or.
So there's a pickle place.
Yeah.
I mean, like they do pickling everything.
Yeah.
And it was down there. Is that a good reference?
It does not help clue me in. But I love New York, and I, too, had an amazing meal with friends. Do you know Tim Soucy? He is a House rep from the South End.
I do not.
He is originally from Nashua, where he served as a firefighter for a full career, and he currently is the president of Club National. Are you familiar with Club National?
I am not.
It's a social club in Nashua where they've got the busiest keynote machine in the whole state.
What?
Yeah, for the membership there, which is about 900 souls are members of Club National.
I don't even get Keno. I don't get it.
I like local lottery.
Yeah?
Yeah, that brings me to my gift. I've got a gift. I've got a gift for you.
We're exchanging gifts like Christmas time.
Well, the last 2 times
Can I open it up now?
I want you to open it up now.
I'm all about it. What is this?
So it's a fudge round. There's
Little
2 or 3 of them in there.
Yes.
Okay, but
I've scored.
It's not just a fudge round. It's a political statement.
Okay.
Do you know why? Do you know what recent fame Fudge Round has again realized in our American culture?
Am I about to be enlightened?
So have you heard Oliver Anthony's song "Rich Men North of Richmond"?
No.
You don't even know what I'm talking about?
Oh wait, is that the guy with the beard?
Yeah.
Yeah. He plays the banjo.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or guitar.
He got to fame. I don't know. Yeah. Yes, I think I do know.
Almost overnight.
Yes.
And on YouTube.
Yes.
A couple months ago.
He was out in some like backwards area just playing his guitars on banjo, right? And they picked him up for the song.
Yeah, he was living deliberately. I don't think he was expecting the type of fame that he found.
Yeah, I do know that.
But almost overnight, literally on YouTube, he becomes a sensation with the song "Rich Men North of Richmond."
Okay.
And it's got a real soulful, relatable message and sound to it. And then both political parties tried to take this song and make it their own.
Okay.
On the far right, it was anti-current administration. On the far left, it was a shared story of our financial struggle of the working person.
Yeah.
And there is a line in there criticizing those people who are just sitting, resting, letting the rest of us pay for them on welfare, and criticizing them for eating fudge rounds.
Oh,
and so
I see with that.
from this song, there's a lyric that is very relatable. I mean, that song's about the struggle of those people, I think, trying to earn a dollar and work really hard for their families. The collective concern we all have these days, no matter what side of the political aisle, when it comes to facing inflation, or as I call it, funflation. You've just been to New York.
Yes.
Things were expensive there.
Yes.
It's funflation. That is no doubt, I think, a symptom of coming out and recovering from the pandemic. We, for reasons which were probably right and not wrong, poured money onto our people in order so we didn't go hungry during a terrible pandemic. And that meant when we came out of it, there was a lot of extra money and scarce resources because the pandemic slowed down production of things in factories near and far. So less services and less things to buy on the market, more money to do it. The obvious next step is inflation to me. I don't think there is political blame. There may well be, but not to the extent that each side would wish to assign it. But as a consequence, the life right now is expensive, and I believe personally Oliver Anthony's song is torn from that shared concerning experience. And this lyric about fudge rounds is the lyric that gets me going, and so I wanted to give it to you as a symbol of the humanity we share. But there's also something else there. What else did you receive?
You're not going to break out in the song, are you?
No, I'm a terrible singer. If I could sing, you'd already know I could sing.
Yes, there is a lottery ticket in here. A scratch ticket, I put it that way.
And how much could you win? Can you tell?
It says win up to 16 times. Oh, win up to 100,000.
Could you imagine?
No. Yeah, well, I would try.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the fun of lottery is the ride home.
Is that 10 minutes already? The ride home.
We'll get back to it.
Hang on. Dang, I'm all I don't even know what I'm all on Twitter here. You are listening to NH Unscripted. I'm being upped by my new friend Jim Rosenberg. I am your host with the new scratch ticket, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Taj Mahal-like digs of the WKXL studios, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM, Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful people in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL. Man, we're barely scratching the surface. This isn't even the show I thought we'd have. We're coming back. Yeah, I could have told you, Vincent. This world is never meant for one as beautiful as you, but it was meant for NH Unscripted. I am your Don McLean-like host, Ray Dudley, having more fun than I thought I would have in a long time. My good friend, attorney Jim Rosenberg, is in the house, regaling me with unbelievable stories. We are coming to you from 1450 AM, 103.9 FM. Those are Concord. 101.9 FM in Manchester. Our URL is nhtalkradio.com. Let me tell you what's happening out there. There is a button so you can listen to us live, or you can find the archives of this show and all of the other wonderful programs that take place here at WKXL. You know, you wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, you need something to help you through the night. We're going to get you through the night. Yeah, anyway. NHTalkRadio.com. Jim, now I feel like a piker. I mean, I'm just giving you chocolates.
Oh, you've been so generous to me.
Here you are, my friend.
In my last 2 visits, these are I'd love to eat all of these chocolates.
I do eat
Thank you. And the York Peppermint Patty is always good. It saves my breath. I'll save that for last because of that.
Oh,
so we figured out in the break.
Yes.
Well, a couple things. The reason why the lottery ticket, I think.
Okay.
The best benefit of buying the lottery ticket
is
not the likelihood of winning. We all know that the odds are not in your favor. The best benefit
I try to black that part
is
out.
how I imagine I'd spend my winnings.
Yes.
The loot, the bounty.
Yes.
The spoils. So after I buy the ticket, and I usually go to South Street Market, which is on South Street in Concord. Do you know Jim and Robin Bashos?
I don't know them, but I know the market.
Proprietors of this store.
I do not.
They've got some wonderful traditional Greek foods and groceries in there too, but they sell quite a bit of lottery. That tends to be where I go. You realize that the Mega Millions topped $1 billion this week, right?
I don't.
You're not part
I've been in New York, so I didn't know.
Well,
that's my excuse.
I recommend that when we're done here, you go immediately to South Street Market.
$1 billion?
You demand that Jimmy Basho sell you a Mega Millions ticket, a winner, if you could.
If you could. Yeah.
billion. That would change things for you.
$1 billion.
Yeah. So I've bought some, and it's not so much that I think I will win, though I hope I could.
Yeah.
It's that as I buy the ticket and then drive to work or home or wherever I'm going, the escapism of it, how I think about the homes I'd buy and the money I'd spend on myself, but also friends too. It's the kind of hypothetical, imaginative portion of that purchase. $2 buys you a fantasy, and I think
we are all
that's
about
why
entertainment here. That is correct.
Great. And as a New Hampshireite, you bear a responsibility, as do I, to educate the youth of our state. And one way that's done in this state is through the lottery.
Gambling.
Yeah, yeah. And so
that's what I want to teach my kids.
Yeah, right.
How to gamble.
It's for the kids.
It's all about the kids.
Yeah, it's
all about
in the end. Kids. It is for the kids. And I'd mentioned Club National because they love their Keno machine there. There's a lot of lottery games offered in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And my dear friend Tim Soucy, who's also a House rep out of the South End, his lovely wife, with whom we're also great friends, Karen Soucy. She's a lobbyist. They've become friends of ours through patrolling the sidelines of Concord High field hockey games.
What?
Our dear daughter Alice and theirs Emma were fast friends as field hockey teammates together. And you find each other. You tend to find like-minded souls quickly when you're dealing with the weather of a New Hampshire fall, following some team into November, hoping for their success. But okay, if they might drop out early too.
Maybe.
Through those experiences that we endured together, we make friends, and we did with them.
Correct.
And we've had a couple New York City trips with them.
Oh, yeah?
Including one, we, in the break, ladies and gentlemen, figured out that our host and leader, Ray, was in the Lower East Side.
Thank you.
When he went to said speakeasy, he
Thank
referred
you.
to a pickle place called the Pickle Guys.
Yes, yes.
I bet those are great pickles.
Oh, my God.
And that's the Lower East Side, too.
They
I
had
love
everything.
Lower Manhattan.
Peppers were pickled. They had pineapple that was pickled, mango that was pickled. You walk in, and it's just this aroma of just the vinegary smell, you know. Oh, man.
Well, and that's why my New York is great, especially in Lower Manhattan where you were. Neighborhood by neighborhood, it's small, intimate venues where the food is exceptional because they wouldn't survive in that place if it wasn't.
Excellent point.
So you just don't miss when you're there. Whether it's an off-Broadway show like the one you were describing,
Yep.
a 3-person show about unionization.
Yeah.
Did it draw from some current concepts in the world of work?
You think Dartmouth?
Yeah.
How about the Dartmouth players all wanting to unionize?
Yeah.
You brought up the March Madness earlier on, all
Yep.
that's going on there. And in the middle of it, Dartmouth players are like, yeah, we might want to have a union. What do you think?
Well, we live in a world of have and have-nots where we hear stories of corporate executives lining their pockets with just lavish salaries and other benefit packages, yet they make more than every single person who works for them.
Yeah.
And that distinction is becoming more and more stark, and I think and wonder whether that's going to lead to some revitalization of the organized labor movement. And it sounds like so often art, as you know, is drawn from the stories and themes and politics of the day. And I was curious, as you told the story of this theater production you attended, whether or not that's part of it. You know?
I had no idea that there was even a battle with Disney over unionizing all the artists and the colorers and the painters there. I had no idea that ever existed. I had no idea, assuming his script was right, that Fantasia was losing the money. It was just a black hole. Nobody would go see it. And he kept pushing it, and that and some other show. They had Snow White was a big hit for them, but then they did Fantasia, and they just went into a sinkhole. It was losing all kinds of money.
And you went off Broadway.
Yes.
What was the quality of the craftsmanship?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were way down in the Lower East if you were
Yes.
near. Yeah.
Yes.
So with another couple, my wife and I went with Kim and Scott LeBrun. Do you know those guys?
I do not.
Famous South Enders, parents of softball
Do they want to know
players.
me?
They would love. Who wouldn't wish to know you, Ray?
Thank you.
Wonderful people. We went on a trip with
love
them
them, honest to God.
some years ago, and we attended an off-Broadway production called Drunken Shakespeare. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it.
And do you know the concept?
I'm going to say no, but I have heard
A group
of
of young actors who probably aren't getting their on-Broadway gig yet, but are filthy with talent, get together to perform Shakespeare in a really offbeat but well-attended theater venue. Here, the stage is essentially a hallway, probably as wide as your office, with seating on each side. So you're looking at the other attendees
Got ya.
with the
I
Shakespearean
love those kind of
actors
theaters.
in between.
I absolutely love those things.
Also the type of theater where you could buy yourself a pint of Guinness or something like that if you wished. And the basic concept is at the beginning, they would kind of do a random draw of different Shakespeare productions that they were ready to roll with, and one actor is pulled out of the group to become impaired over the course of the performance.
Seriously?
Starting with a couple shots for real. Starting with a couple shots of tequila, and then an audience member is picked to ring a bell during the first half, and they have a couple more. And over the course of the production, they actually drink quite a lot.
For real?
Become obviously impaired, and the rest of the cast has to work around, prop up this person who becomes funny or tragic in their performance of Shakespeare. And also, though, it is well acted so that they're drawing on contemporary music, politics, and other themes to make it relatable to a modern audience off-Broadway in New York City.
That is fascinating.
And it was a blast. And I thought it was going to be frivolous and fruity.
Yeah,
and
I would have thought it was
warm and wonderful.
Really?
Really.
So there's the Shakespeare itself, and then there's the improv part of it that they have to be quick thinking, and they're drinking on top of it.
Yeah. No, they're well practiced, clearly. And so
yeah.
they downshift into their bits, and
Yeah.
they downshift into their current cultural splashes.
Yeah.
But the core of it was real Shakespeare.
My God.
And it was fun and funny and relaxed and well worth it, and also less expensive. Last time we were there, so I was starting to tell you the story of Tim Soucy and Karen Soucy. We went down with them Labor Day, and we saw Hamilton. Have you been?
I haven't. No, not to Hamilton.
I'd recommend it, but it was super expensive at first. It's come down now where if you got we
It's
got
only like $300 a ticket.
we got like a partially obstructed view seat, but still saw enough to make it well worth our while.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I avoided it when it was wicked expensive, to use a New Hampshire term too.
Yeah.
But we went out to dinner in the West Village. Not too far from where you were, but more on the Hudson River side than the East River side from where you were in the Lower East Side. The West Village is just an amazing area of restaurants, bars, culture, and fun. Yeah. We went to a restaurant called Port Said, which is an Israeli restaurant where they're also doing small plates. And I would really recommend it if you enjoyed kind of
I know nothing
nibbling
about
and
Israeli
sharing.
food. I have no idea.
I don't really either, though my dad's a Jewish guy. My mom's not. She's interestingly a German and Lutheran person. So you'd think I have more background than I actually do. And it wasn't that it was traditional Jewish foods as much as it was food, I think, that starts at their mothership restaurant, which is in Tel Aviv, I believe. And it was outstanding. They had a DJ playing music in the background. The service and cocktails matched, and it was one of those fine opportunities to eat and drink in New York.
Put a pin
For
in
sure.
that. How is this? My God, my brain's exploding. And I haven't even had any Pez yet. You are listening to NH Unscripted. I am your rabbit slipper-wearing host, Ray Dudley. So happy to be out of bed. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord. That's where you're listening to us from. 101.9 FM for the beautiful people in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL. Woo! Jim Rosenberg on fire today, man. On fire. I got a dozen things to talk to him about. Okay, I just got to squeeze it all in when we get back. Hey, baby, they're playing our song. It's called NH Unscripted, but you knew that. We are coming to you from the Oz-like conditions of the WKXL studios in Concord. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM, 101.9 FM for the beautiful people in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL. I have long ago now just thrown out the idea of what topics Jim Rosenberg and I were going to discuss. We're just freewheeling it all of a sudden. Jim, did you say you had a letter to the editor in the paper today?
Yeah, and it ties in part with a gift I gave to you. We just joked about how
Scratch
we bear
tickets?
That's right. We bear some civic duty to the youth of New Hampshire to buy lottery tickets because, in part, we fund our public schools that way.
Okay.
Well, recently there was a case, the Conval case. Have you followed the latest round of the school funding litigation that have come through New Hampshire courts?
I'm going to lie and say yes.
Okay.
No.
Well, it's quite okay. The truth is I hadn't followed it either, and I got engaged and wrote a letter to the editor upset with a comment the governor made, which isn't a comment about whether you think this decision was right or wrong, or whether you think the governor is fundamentally right or wrong, whether you support him or don't, or what side of the current hot politics you might be on. It was more a comment about the lanes that we stay in and the separation of powers that's important to our democracy and to respecting the civil servants in our system for the decisions they make, not leveling personal attacks at them.
Okay.
And there's a case coming through right now called Conval, I think that's the name of the case, where the question again, which has been asked in our state's recent past, is whether or not our present funding system for public school education is sufficient. And there, one of the questions asked, and I'm not real familiar with it, is whether or not $4,100 a head for state funding per head per student is sufficient to supply a constitutionally sufficient funding for education, public education.
Intriguing question.
$4,100. I feel like with the funflation we're all just talking about, that's the amount of a tank of gas these days. But $4,100 doesn't seem like a great sum to me to responsibly educate a New Hampshire kid in a public school. And that was the question. And this case occurred in front of a Superior Court judge named Dave Ruoff. And the one caveat I would make and acknowledge fully is I know Dave, and in fact know him quite well. It's one of the reasons I've got such professional respect for him as a jurist. He and I served together at the Attorney General's office when we were both in the homicide unit responsible for prosecuting the state's murder cases. I then got to see how committed he was to New Hampshire. I knew him to be from New Hampshire. He grew up here. He has a family here. He's the father of 3. He's married to a nurse who served and has served responsibly, taking care of our sick and those in need, right? And he's been a wonderful lawyer through the years. When I knew him, he practiced as a prosecutor, but he'd been a public defender. He went on to teach law school classes at UNH Law, Franklin Pierce Law back in the day, and has served in several. He's been a county attorney in Rockingham County. He served in several capacities. He's been in a small private law firm before he became a judge.
How do you remember all that stuff?
Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to
he's someone I know
interrupt.
quite well.
Oh, my gosh.
He was presiding recently over this case, and he came to the bold and important decision that funding at $41 a head our public school kids was unconstitutional. It was an insufficient funding level. And in reaction to it, Governor Sununu didn't say, okay, well, let's appeal it. I disagree. And here are the reasons why. Instead, he quite publicly and famously claimed that Judge Ruoff shouldn't be a judge, that this is a politician in a robe, and that this was judicial activism. And that might be your opinion, but suggesting that this quality, smart public servant who has devoted the lion's share of his life and life as a lawyer, certainly, to our public institutions, both as a defense lawyer and a prosecutor, and now, importantly, as a judge. I don't think that type of politics of kind of personal retribution are a fit in New Hampshire's democracy. I worry that type of, that genre of political comment has seeped down from how volatile politics are at a national level as people compete for the presidency currently, and as we've had controversies from recent past presidents about how to behave. I think the truth is that when you're a governor, you need to respect the decisions made in our courtrooms, and when you're in the courtroom, you ought not to veer into politics. And sometimes that's mixed. Maybe that's mixed here, but the truth of the matter is to question the integrity of a human being for a sincere decision, I think, is quite a mistake. And we've seen this governor make that same mistake. If you recall, there was a negligent homicide trial brought by the Attorney General's office up north in New Hampshire not long ago, where a tractor-trailer truck allegedly veered into the wrong lane, taking out, unfortunately, a number of motorcycle riders. Well, the Attorney General's office, on an accident reconstruction done by state police, tried that case, and apparently there were significant omissions in the evidence, and the guy was found not guilty by a jury of his peers. To be found not guilty by a New Hampshire jury requires 12 people to be unanimous in their decision. Guilty or not guilty. Either way, it's got to be unanimous. What's sacrosanct and fundamental in our system is that jury is able to cooperate, listening to the facts and the legal instruction in the courtroom, and render, after deliberation, a decision as citizens that we then expect or respect. And the governor, in the wake of that decision as well, actually decried the decision made by the jury. That's irresponsible. That makes people frightened to serve in our institutions, concerned about their jury service, concerned that the most powerful and mighty politician in our state is going to level personal criticism or critique at them. In the same way, I thought it was unfair in this case for Judge Ruoff. No one gets rich being a judge or being a civil servant in our state. You do it because you care and you're concerned for the integrity of our courtrooms. That's the reason why he's done it. I know him enough to say so. And so I find it upsetting when politicians make these types of comment that are nasty and that personalize important decisions made in another branch of government. That's a mistake, and I said so, I believe, or I said so in a letter to the editor, which appears, I think, today or yesterday in the Concord Monitor. It's rare for me to go outside of my Twitter or now X account to express political or community concern, but did so here in an old-fashioned letter to the editor and wanted to mention it again on your show because I think it's an important point to make about how we behave with one another in our localities, in our institutions of government. New Hampshire is a small place, and if we turn to this type of personal attack following sincere decision-making in government and in courtrooms, I think that really devalues what's been unique in New Hampshire, which is to trust that we won't let it fail here.
Dude, you have opened up a can of worms, and so many are crawling out. I try to stay away from politics for the most part on this show, only because it is so divisive, but it's such a nasty business anymore. The decorum is just out the window. I don't know what's going on. It's a crazy day to be alive. I'm trying not to touch any third rails and keep it upbeat. But do you fear retribution when you send in a letter like that?
A little.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's important for us to use our voices. Yeah. I'm from here. I'm proud of being from here and have invested my own or part of my own professional life serving in state government too. And so I hope that gives me some standing, both as a New Hampshire native and someone who really roots for stability in our courtrooms and neutral arm's length decision making there. And that's something that I'm personally invested and interested in. Yeah. And to that end, believe it was appropriate comment. But on politics, I don't wish to bring to your show a lightning rod of politics. The truth is I've got a great deal of respect for Governor Sununu for other things that I think he's done recently to demonstrate real backbone in the face of political pressure. We do live in a meat grinder today, and I miss a time in New Hampshire where we could sit across from one another and talk about our differences. Politics in New Hampshire are intriguing and a little different. We have this kind of history of fierce independence and libertarianism, and national politics pressure and platforms don't always find their footing in our state the way they might elsewhere, and I've loved that about our state. Yep. And I'm also just, though, concerned in my comment about the way we really talk to each other and respect one another for honest work that we're doing. Yeah. And that's where that's the nature of my comment. It's not a Republican or Democratic comment. It's a how we behave together playing in the same sandbox comment.
So you kicked this door open. So let's just get into it a little bit. Are you finding this as a trend, or is this more of an anomaly? You're in the courts a lot. What are you? Is there a downtrend now, or are we finding that people are not cordial when you meet your fellow attorneys? And
there's a congeniality that continues to define the New Hampshire bar because we always have to deal with each other so often. But yes, I'm finding that more often now, police and prosecutors are bringing charges without fully thinking through the propriety of doing so or being certain that the investigative facts and evidence available support those charges. Yes, I think that's happening more now. Some of it's borne by the current calamity in the system. We talked about inflation and supply chains coming out of COVID. Well, that impacted courts as well. There were a number of things we couldn't do in person, like jury trials. That's made for a lot of long waits now and a lot of pressure institutionally on this system that we can talk about on another visit.
Mother of God, if that isn't the segue to beat all segues. Woo! MH Unscripted, proud, not just happy to be out of bed, proud to be out of bed. I am your host, Ray Dudley. Jim, My God, man. Woo, he's on fire.
What a treat to be here. Thank you for having me.
1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord, 101.9 FM in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL. Yeah, you can head out there now. Jim and I are going to chat a little bit more behind the scenes. See you next time. Jim, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Love it.